Ouch. Cryptocurrency is down 60% and you're probably wanting to sell everything and go off and cry somewhere in a corner. Hey guys, my name is Travis Flaherty. Welcome back. We are the world's first blockchain to build a regulatory and compliant pathway forward for the tokenization of real world assets. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is going on in the markets and why you shouldn't panic sell. That's the last thing that you want to do. So first of all, take a deep breath. We've got to learn to zoom out a little bit because it's really easy to get caught up in the emotion. It's really easy to see your balance down 60% and say, oh my gosh, I've got to sell and protect what I have left here. Let me tell you a little story. So back in 2008, I was always taught by my mentors that real estate is the most tangible and safest place to put your money. So we started investing in property and we started building some homes. Now, I'm not a builder, but we were investing in some new construction builds. And then somebody starts talking about subprime loans not performing well on Wall Street. And all of a sudden, the values just started crashing. Now, at the time, I put a sizable amount of money into each property that I was building. And so I had all of our money that was already tied up. Now, when the property values started declining as quickly as they did, the banks started calling. And they said, listen, we're not going to give you that second to finish this property anymore because the value isn't there, but you have to finish it or we're going to foreclose. Now, at that point, I panicked. I thought, man, I've got all of my money tied up into these properties. I've got to do something. I've got to take the rest of the money that I have and fix it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose everything. Well, unfortunately, hindsight's 2020. I should have walked away at that point, but I kept putting more money into this deal. And eventually the market collapsed. And those homes that I was building for about 800, 900,000 at the time that should have sold for 1.5 ended up selling for about $300,000. Now here's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is you've got to know when to hold, relax, stay calm. You've also got to know when to walk away. And I'm going to tell you, right now is not the time to walk away. What's happening in the cryptocurrency markets, I believe there's a few things. Number one, cryptocurrency is cyclical. If you study Bitcoin, every single halving event, every 4 years has triggered a new all-time high. And we get euphoria, we get excitement. And ironically, there's always a line out the door to buy crypto when it's sitting at 125. You ever notice that? When Bitcoin's sitting at 125, everybody's talking about it, everybody wants to buy it. But then when it starts to cool off and it comes back down to where we are in the 60s and 70s right now, fear, panic, nobody wants to touch it. It's just interesting to me. So what you have to understand is that Bitcoin goes in cycles. It hits a new all-time high, and people start to take profits. People sell off. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of different triggers that are out there. What's going on with the jobs market? What's going on with the trade market? What's going on when it comes to regulation now and whether these Clarity Acts are being passed or not. So there's a lot of outside influences. Now you also have to factor in the banks and the institutions. They're part of the equation now. Remember a few years ago, they were telling you that cryptocurrency was a decentralized Ponzi scheme. Now, they've taken a totally different position. If you can't beat them, join them. So now the banks are involved as well. And so there's a lot of different variables, but it doesn't change the history and it doesn't change the pattern that cryptocurrency moves in cycles. It hits a new all-time high and then it comes down again. Now, here's the interesting thing that people usually don't pay attention to. They always focus on the highs, but they're not watching the lows. So let me give you an example. In January of 2025, we hit a new all-time high of $80,000. Everybody went crazy. People thought, man, 80,000, I can't believe that Bitcoin's at $80,000. Once again, euphoria. Everybody's buying it. Everybody's talking about it. This fear of missing out, right? FOMO, one of the most powerful emotions in the world, kicks in. And then what happened? It shot up to $125,000 last year. Can you believe it? $125,000. Bitcoin, when it first came out, was worth less than a penny. $125,000. Started to come back down. Things started to cool off a little bit and it crashed. It's over. Bitcoin, I told you. We told you so. We told you it was going to go away. We told you that it was going to be worse than the dot-com bubble. Every time it comes down, the naysayers love to come out. You ever notice that? I think I read the other day that 477 times in the major headlines, it has said it's over. Crypto's done. It's going away. So here's what you have to understand. It crashes down to the old high. It crashed down to 80 and people thought the world was ending. It came down in the 70s, even touched down into the 60s. And you know what? People were just selling like crazy. And here's the interesting thing. You get all these panic sellers that are out there, right? There's these different stages that crypto investors go through. We're gonna talk about those in just a moment. But usually when they start to panic sell, who do you think is buying up their fear? That's the question. It's the savvy investors and it's the major institutions. They know what they're doing. The squeeze is on right now. These institutions that are fighting for the 450 Bitcoin that are being minted every single day right now, they're squeezing out the small wallet holders. They're squeezing out the people that can't stomach the lows. And so they sell and these banks are just buying and they're buying. Anybody see what Grant Cardone's doing? He's selling his houses. He's selling his planes. Why? Because he wants to buy as much Bitcoin as he can right now because he knows what's going to happen over the next couple of years. So they're buying up the fear from all of these people that feel like, oh my gosh, I got to protect that money that I have in here. I've got to sell now before I have nothing left. Well, then we start a new trend. And if you look historically, there's a period of time, it's usually right at about a year, where cryptocurrency cools off, and then we start seeing it warm up again as we approach the next halving event. Every 4 years, historically speaking, no guarantees, historically speaking, every time we've had a halving, Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high. What you have to understand is the formula for Bitcoin is pretty simple. It's supply, demand, use. Supply, demand, utility, right? At the end of the day, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. 97% of them have already been minted. Think about that. Once 21 million have been minted, that's it. That's all that will ever be created. It's not like cash. I always say cash is trash. Why? Because they just keep printing and printing and printing. What happens to the value of your dollar? It just keeps going down and down. Do you guys realize you got to make an extra $15,000 in 2026 to live the same quality of life that you lived in 2023? That's inflation, robbing you blind. So now you look at that. You look at all of these state factors and you come back to Bitcoin and say, well, there's only 21 million. That's the supply. Now let's talk a little bit about the use. Well, Bitcoin, when it first came out, had zero use. Nobody even understood it. I mean, maybe money laundering, that's about it. But over time, people started to adopt it. You started to have retailers that were accepting it. Then you started to see more and more people that were buying it as a hedge against the dollar. Because the dollar was declining so much, people thought, man, this is a great store of value, similar to gold and silver. And then you started to see governments buying it. All of a sudden, they're buying it for their overall strategic reserves. All around the world, the conversation is how much Bitcoin that Venezuela has? How much Bitcoin does China have? Now we have use. You have a limited supply. Well, anytime that you have, it doesn't matter what the asset class is, anytime that you have a scarce amount of the asset and the demand continues to grow, what happens to value? So that leads us to where we are today. Things have cooled off. It's all part of the process. Every single gold and silver just cooled off too. Did anybody see gold and silver just came down as well? Hit a new all-time high, euphoria. People were going crazy. I gotta go get gold. I gotta go get gold. And it calmed down. Markets move up and down. You have to learn to go with the ebb and flow of the markets. And you gotta learn how to relax. Now, when we talk about cryptocurrency, there's these stages. Stage one is the dismissal stage. And I was there. I remember when I first heard about Bitcoin in 2010. A friend of mine called me and he says, listen, I think you should invest in this thing called Bitcoin. I said, okay, tell me about it. He says, well, I says, is it gold or silver? He says, it's digital. I said, digital, okay. Well, where do I buy it? He says, well, you got to find somebody willing to sell it to you. There was no exchanges back then. I said, okay. All right, so I got to find somebody willing to sell it to me. What can I do with it? He says, oh, nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? He says, well, you can't really do anything with it. You just got to hold on to it. I said, okay, I got to hold on to it. Well, what if I want to get my money back? Well, you got to find somebody who's willing to buy it from you. And I'm like, this is not sounding like a really good deal here. You're telling me to go buy this coin that I can't hold. Sounds like I got to go do a drug deal in a dark alley to buy it. I can't do anything with it. And then I got to go do another drug deal if I want to sell it. And I'm like, I'm out. I think this is a scam. I think you should go get your money back. So that's dismissal, right? The height of all stupidity, I always say, is forming an opinion without knowing all the facts. So that's stage one, right? It's fake money. It's a scam. It's not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, what happened? Bitcoin goes up to $100. And you know what everybody said? It still blows my mind because I said it too. Well, now it's $100. Now I'm not going to touch it. I mean, it's already hit its high. It's $100. Now I'm not going to go buy this stupid digital coin that I can't hold for $100. And then what did it do? It goes to $765 in year 3, year 4. And now I'm like, well, now I'm definitely not going to buy it. It's already at $800 now. And this process just continued to go over and over again. But you know what that did? It took me to stage 2. You know what stage 2 is? Curiosity. You're curious now. Like, what is this Bitcoin? What is this cryptocurrency? Another year or 2 goes by and all of a sudden Ethereum comes out and smart contracts. And all of a sudden everybody's launching their own currency and their own coins. I mean, you got dog coins, frog coins, cat coins, Doge coins, all these different coins. coins. None of them have any intrinsic value, tons of hype. It's like gambling. It's all it is, right? We have these apps, right? You got all these sports books that you can go bet on your phone. That's all the cryptocurrency space was in 2017. So you go through this curiosity phase and then you get into stage 3. Now you've heard about some guy that made a fortune in cryptocurrency. You might even know somebody that made a little bit of money. So now you start going down the rabbit hole phase. So now you're digging deep, right? It's like, I gotta know, what is Dogecoin? And I gotta be able to get into the timing of this project right. And you start kind of digging a little bit, and along the way, markets are going up, they're going down. You're mad when you didn't buy when it was crashed the last time. And you know how many times I've heard people say, man, I'm not touching, man. Bitcoin's crashing. And then when it goes up to 125, they're kicking themselves because they didn't buy at 80 or 60 or 50 or whatever it was the last crash. So you get into this curiosity phase, then you go down this rabbit hole phase, and then pretty soon you start to mature a little bit. You've been around long enough now to understand the patterns. And now when crypto crashes, everybody else is selling, and you know what you do? You buy more. Now, every time it crashes, I'm like, man, I wish I had more money. I need more cash because I need to buy right now. It's so funny. Summer, my wife, will say to me, hey, honey, we need to go do X. We need to go Y. Maybe we should go buy this house or invest in this property. I say, well, we're broke. She says, wait a second. I thought we got a ton of crypto. I'm like, we do have crypto, but we're not touching it right now, especially right now. So, and you crypto bros, those people, the crypto enthusiasts will understand that you'll feel my pain, right? We're broke. We might have a lot of crypto, but we're broke. So now when it drops, you buy more. And then you arrive at the place where you're seasoned, maybe beat up a little bit because you've been through these highs and lows, but you've been through it enough to not panic and not worry anymore, and you enter into stage 5. Stage 5 is calm. I'm calm right now. The markets, I've lost 50, 60% of my portfolio in crypto. I'm calm. I just bought a huge amount of crypto last week. Why? Because I know I don't buy the FUD that the media puts out, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. Who owns the media, by the way? Let me ask you, who owns the media? Is it the elite? Is it people that perhaps are behind and responsible for the buying up the Bitcoin right now? They know what they're doing. They create enough fear out there. What does it do? It manipulates the value. Sadly, we've arrived at this new era where there is some manipulation going on in cryptocurrency, but you gotta learn to play the game. You gotta start thinking like the banks think. The banks make money off of you, right? They take your money, they go and invest it, they make fortunes at your expense. They pay you a tiny, tiny little fraction of a percent, and they're out there making a fortune with your money. You've got to start thinking like the banks. Well, if you think about these elites, the people that own the media, that control the media, that control the FUD that everybody else is buying, that creates panic and leads to panic selling, well, what are they doing? They drive the value down, and then they go gobble it up. And then what do? All of a sudden, it starts to come back. We see a new all-time high, and the cycle repeats. So listen, if you want to stay up to date on what's really happening in the cryptocurrency space, subscribe to my channel, and I will continue to keep you aware of all things that are happening in the world of cryptocurrency. See you on the next one.